a reliable partner that is ready to negotiate a mutually acceptable political solution to the conflicts in line with all the resolutions adopted since 2007, but also because the UN has failed in its mission to preserve international peace and security in the region. We know, we always know, it's common knowledge that since 2016, the Polisario has started in its attempt to create a fait accompli in the region. In 2017, the Security Council was about to adopt a resolution that contained a paragraph that was very harsh against Polisario. But the Polisario withdrew its forces on the eve of the adoption of the resolution. In 2018, the Security Council adopts Resolution 2440 and 2464. Both resolutions called on the Polisario to avoid taking any actions that could jeopardize the stability of the region or create a fait accompli in both in Guerguerat and also in the Tifariti and Birhlu. Yet the Polisario persisted in its provocations. In January 2019, it hosted military maneuvers in the Mahriz region in the buffer zone, and in last December it held its 15th Congress. Yet, despite all the protests, all the letters that Morocco sent to the Security Council and the Secretary General, nothing was done to deter the Polisario. Even though the Guterres reports mentioned the violations of the Polisario, he abstained from calling on the Security Council to rein in the Polisario and urge it to stop its provocations, or it would face sanctions from the Polisario. Had the UN dealt with the Polisario in a firm way, we would not be talking about detention today. Despite that, I think what's happening plays into Morocco's hands. Why? Morocco has been calling for decades on the UN to come to terms with the fact that the conflict is not a decolonization conflict, it's a conflict between Algeria and Morocco. Morocco insisted that there could be no solution to the conflict without Algeria being fully involved in direct negotiations with Morocco. In light of what happened recently, I don't think Morocco would be ready to engage in any negotiations with the Polisario. Morocco would further insist that any negotiations should be with Algeria, and the solution should be between Morocco and Algeria. What just happened is comforting Morocco's diplomatic efforts and the momentum it has created over the past 3 years since the adoption of Resolution 2414, which for the first time included Algeria in a Security Council resolution. Since that resolution, 5 resolutions now have mentioned Algeria and have consecrated like the principle of the Geneva roundtables. This was in itself a diplomatic breakthrough for Morocco. Now, after what happened, after the Polisario showed to the world that it is not a party that can be taken seriously to achieve peace and reach a political solution to the conflicts, Morocco would further insist, would further stress that it can only sit to the table if Algeria is its interlocutor. On the other hand, in order to understand why the Algeria and the Polisario are anchored and they took this they made this decision, this uncalculated decision. We have to place it into its regional and international context. In the international context, as I said, Morocco succeeded over the past 3 years in confirming, in consolidating the UN approach that Algeria is part and parcel of the conflict. At the regional level, since Morocco rejoined the African Union, Morocco has not only succeeded in naturalizing the African Union, but also in playing into Algeria and Polisario's turf. We all remember that before 2017, Morocco's diplomacy had, and its tackle Achilles was the lack of support from African countries beyond West Africa. After Morocco rejoined the African Union, it has succeeded in first neutralizing big regional powers such as Ethiopia and Nigeria, and also securing the support of other countries that before 2017 had diplomatic relations with the Polisario. The most, if you want to understand why Algeria and Polisario are angry, we should just put it on, take the example of Nigeria. Nigeria, we remember that within the African Union there was this Abuja, Pretoria, Algiers axis that was undermining Morocco's position within the UN and trying to impose African Union as player in the conflict. What happened after Morocco joined the African Union? Nigeria, which until 2015, Nigeria's presidents used to address the Sahara conflict in every address before the general debates of the UN General Assembly, and he used to use the same narrative about the conflicts, that is a conflicts of decolonization, and also making a parallel between the Sahara conflicts and the Palestinian-Israeli conflicts. But after joined African Union, this narrative, this message disappeared from the Nigerian president's statements before the UN. If we go now to the UN archive and we analyze the statements and we make a comparison between what was said before 2016 and 2000 and from then until now, we would realize that the Sahara has disappeared. This in itself is a diplomatic blow from Morocco, because it has succeeded in neutralizing Nigeria and in weakening this strategic axis that Algeria was using to its advantage to weaken Morocco. In addition to that, Morocco succeeded, as Dr. Haddad said, in securing the support of 15 African countries, in addition to the United Arab Emirates and Jordan, who by opening their consulates in Laayoune and Dakhla have publicly stated that this territory is under Morocco's sovereignty. Here I would like to point out that this action will have legal consequences both for Morocco and for these countries. Why? Because after now 16 months after the first country opened its consulates in Laayoune and Dakhla, which was Côte d'Ivoire, until now, the UN has not issued any statement that would challenge the opening of these consulates, or say that these actions do not prejudge the status of the conflicts as a non-self-governing territory. In international law, the fact that the UN has kept silent and did not make any statements will create legal consequences for the UN with regard to these conflicts. There is a principle in international law which is called the principle of estoppel. This principle is principle of international custom law, according to which when a country takes an action that gives a third party that creates in a third party, in this case Morocco, legitimate expectations about the intention of that party, this creates legal consequences. In this case, by not challenging Morocco's sovereignty over the territory, the UN has given Morocco and the country that's opened their consulates in Laayoune and Dakhla that their actions do not violate international law and are not contrary to the status of the territory as non-self-governing territory. By not taking this action, the UN has just tacitly approved these actions and recognized Morocco's sovereignty over the territory. These actions, in addition to what Dr. Haddad mentioned, explain why Algeria and Polisario are angry and why they tried to blunt the political momentum that Morocco has created over the past 3 years to advance its position and annihilate any hope for the Polisario to create or Algeria to create through Polisario a satellite state in southern Morocco, which would allow it to be the regional hegemon of the Maghreb. I stop here, and we can discuss more points later on.
Thank you very much, Dr. Samer Benis, for these valuable observations. Now I give the floor to Dr. Najib Somai to present his assessment of what happened in the past weeks, while interacting both with the observations made by our two guests, expert guests, Dr. Hassan Haddad and Dr. Samer Benis. Sir, you may take the floor.
Yes, thank you, Rami. Thank you for the invitation. It's difficult to take the floor after Professor Haddad and Dr. Benis, but I will try to focus on the economic dimensions linked to this intervention of Morocco in the crossing point of Guerguerat. We know that now there is a process of change in the world. Many things will change after COVID and also after many events before and now in the future. But what is important is that Morocco now is making a success story. It's a military one, an economic one, and also a social one. When we talk about the Moroccan Sahara, we talk about the dynamism, about huge projects, and also about something which is very special in Africa. It's a clear vision linked to a process of developing green energy, of huge investments, and also of developing the quality of the Moroccan in the Sahara, of the human in the Sahara. You know that there is two important events that we will see next year. The first one is that Africa will initiate the process of the African Continental Free Trade Area. It's a free trade with 1.2 billion of consumers, and that allow to any African country to have this big capacity, this big market and to develop the flow of goods and services with this important free trade zone. When Algeria want to block or to cut this link and the link between Morocco and Africa, is because that Morocco is now having a triple dimension of acting in terms of benefiting from this free trade. First one is the logistical investments. His Majesty the King talked about the port of Dakhla. We have a strong one in Tangier. We have also this will make an important axe of transport and logistics between Morocco and Africa, and also between all the continents. In the same time, Algeria know that if Morocco have this opportunity, he will also have another one, is the route that will make easily any kind of transactions, and also to ensure the normal flow of person and goods. So they want to cut this link between Morocco and Africa, and they want also to say to Morocco that you will not benefit from these opportunities. There is another event, is that China now is developing something, a project called the Belt and the Road Initiative. It links Western Europe to China. And the door of this dynamism is Morocco. Morocco now is acting like a country that will ensure the link between this dynamism of $60 billion of investments and Africa. So they know that if Morocco have this fluidity of the flow, it will help our country to benefit from another important point, is that after COVID, we cannot talk about this international regional value, this international value chain. Before, we talked about the world as common value chain, and we can't start the production in United States and make another part in Morocco and the other in China. No, it's not possible, because we talk about something called the regional value chain. That means that Morocco will be in the heart of the Mediterranean regional value chain. And El Guerguerat crossing point, the crossing point of El Guerguerat, will make from this the regional value chain, will ensure the link between this regional value chain and Africa. And you know that this will give to us two possibilities. The first one is the normal localization of production, and another one is the co-localization, is that we can produce a part in Africa and the part in Morocco, and having the European market and the African market in the same time. So this is really important events that show that Morocco now is in a huge dynamism and have big opportunities in the future. And Algeria don't refuse that Morocco will be a strong country, and all the acts of Morocco are like I don't know, it's like something that make the generals of Algeria angry. But what is important is that Morocco now is doing well. We have an important project, is the regional model of development, or the model of development of the South. It's $8 billion investment plus $1 billion of investment in renewable energy. We benefit from the sun energy and the air energy, and His Majesty said that also we will develop a project of what we call maritime energy. This is very important. And what is the result is that Morocco will export energy to Europe, and also will ensure will resolve a big problem of energy in the region, in Africa. And in the same time, when we talk about the port of Dakhla, we talk also about what we call satellite industries. when we have a logistic area, an important logistic area like Port of Dakhla, I think he will be something like the third most important port in the continent. It's really important because when we have such a project, we will have this satellite industries. Many people and many companies from the worldwide will look for an opportunity of investment, because Dakhla port now is linking two important axes of international trade dynamism. Is the axe of London, Cape Town, and also the axe of Rio de Janeiro, Istanbul. So I think that Morocco now is making the story in the Moroccan Sahara, and we will benefit from the position, and we will make from these regions the key of the development of the presence, the economic and commercial presence of Morocco in the continent, and also a way to open the continent in the world. Another important point is that when we talk about the Moroccan Sahara, it's the same quality and the same volume of investment if we compare it with all the Moroccan regions. We invest in renewable energy in the fourth part of Morocco, and also we invest in the human capital in all the country, and this give the legitimacy to Morocco to say that we have a strong process of developing our country. And what we do in Tangier, we do it in Agadir, and we do it also in Dakhla. I want also to add another point. That I think it's very important, because I know that there is a project to metallize the big important project. We have to know that in the future we will have something called the third industrial revolution. This industrial revolution will need first the green energy and the package of green energy. We will have it in the Moroccan Sahara. We will have also a big connection with many countries. In Dakhla, you can fly in 3 or 4 hours to the main cities in Europe, and also Dakhla or Laayoune, and the main cities in Africa. And this fourth industrial energy will need a big capacity of human resources. And I think that Moroccans in the north or in the south have the possibility to be more creative and to contribute in this process in order to develop some activities like artificial intelligence and robotics and many things in the Moroccan Sahara. So Morocco is shifting the gear and going high in speed in the vision of making our southern regions one of the most important hub of creating value added. And also I think that in few years we can see another Dakhla and another Laayoune and another Boujdour, because we have a clear vision. And we have also an important strategy that will help us to develop the presence of Morocco in the continental area and also in the international economic order. In the same time, I want to just to say that for the African continental free trade agreement, it's something that will give a lot of opportunities for our southern region, and it's an agreement that will allow to create a single market and deep in the economic integration of the continent, and establish liberalized market to have multi and inclusive socio-economic development. This is really important, and I think that His Majesty the King have the key to ensure the success of our country in all is this opportunity. It's okay.
Thank you very much, Dr. Najib Somai, for these valuable points and your valuable contribution. Now, after this evaluation, I would like to return to Dr. Hussein Haddad with the question of how do you survey from a geopolitical angle the results achieved by Morocco after securing the crossing? In other words, what are the geopolitical changes that this Moroccan legal work has brought about into the crossing, which is one of the largest and most commercial crossings in the world? Sir, you may take.
Yeah, I think that what Morocco did, one of the things that that came in Samir's intervention is like the MINURSO should have carried out this kind of work. I think the role of United Nations in the Sahara is actually to monitor the ceasefire, but also to intervene when the parties try to change the reality on the ground. And I think that Polisario has been doing that for a long time, has been trying to change the reality on the ground, but MINURSO has been incapable of actually like preventing that from happening. So Morocco has been patient with that kind of process, I mean, and trying to bring that to the attention of United Nations. But I think when it comes to the flow of goods and persons, when it comes to the human rights, the rights of people to have access to food in West Africa, the rights of merchandise to flow from Europe all the way to Africa, I think Morocco has a role, and I think it has to assume that kind of role. So one of the new situation now is Morocco has to ensure that within the buffer zone, which is the Guerguerat, Morocco has a responsibility. So it has the responsibility of securing the passage of goods and people. It has a responsibility of making sure that the border does not become like a no man's land where people can come and then build camps, I mean, for political purposes. Morocco also has a right to prevent human beings from used as human shield in political process. What Polisario did is the fact that it brought like civilians and used those kinds of civilians in order to gain political to have political gains out of that. That's unacceptable. But I think that Morocco, what it should do now is actually move towards securing also the rights of the refugees in Tindouf camps. And I think it's a responsibility. Algeria did not assume its responsibility. Algeria says they are refugees. For Morocco, they are people who are warehoused. They are sequestrated. They are warehoused. Warehousing of refugees is something that is unacceptable by virtue of the Geneva Convention. But Algeria says that they are refugees, but it does nothing in order for those refugees to have their rights. So they don't have the right to be identified. So the Security Council, the High Commissariat for Refugees, the European Union, the European Parliament, all have asked Algeria and Polisario that they need to identify who are those people within the refugee camps. So that's the first right. The second one is that there is an effort by the international community to give humanitarian aid to those people within the Tindouf camps. And they distribute something like 134,000 rations every day. But satellite images and also estimations of people who have visited the camps say that maybe there are only like 60 to 80,000 people within the camps. So what happens to the rest of the humanitarian aid? There has been talk within European Parliament, also within the United Nations, different kinds of observers of the Polisario swindling the humanitarian aid and selling it on the black market in the south of Algeria. That should be stopped as well. The third thing is like within the Geneva Conventions, refugees have the right of movement. They need to move if they want to settle in any Algerian city, if they want to settle in Mauritania, if they want to go back to Morocco, to the west, to the Moroccan Sahara, wherever they want to. That free movement of refugees is very important. And they could engage in gainful employment. They could go and do any kind of employment. That's refugees. So Algeria does not give them those kinds of refugees, those kinds of rights. But the other thing that is important, and Morocco has now to really like mobilize the international community towards that, is the fact that delegating the administration of the refugee camps in Tindouf is illegal. That's unacceptable by international law. Algeria has the responsibility for those people who are in the Sahrawis who are in Tindouf camps. It has no right of delegating that to the Polisario. No right whatsoever for the Polisario to run those camps there. So that delegation is illegal and is responsible. And there is no way for anyone to control and to monitor whether their rights are being secured. The Polisario is not an entity that is recognized like internationally. There are no mechanisms for monitoring the rights of those people within there. So the responsibility is that of Algeria. And the reports have said that freedom of speech is muzzled there. Freedom of political expression is muzzled. For example, like people who would say, for example, that they are for the Moroccanness of the Sahara or for the autonomy plan that was proposed by Morocco, they are muzzled. They may be tortured. There has been like a lot of reports about things happening which demonstrate that there is like a muzzling of freedom of expression. And there is no way for anyone to monitor that because, for example, Algeria does not allow Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, or any other organization to go and visit the camps and then do its due diligence in order to see that. So that's a responsibility also of Morocco, and it's also a responsibility now that the Polisario is no longer a responsible partner in peace. And I agree with Samir that Algeria now should be the partner. Morocco and Algeria should sit down on the table and discuss these kinds of problems, discuss the problems of the camps in Tindouf, discuss the problems of the buffer zones. Those are Moroccan zones, but they are buffers by virtue of the peace process. And the third thing that is geostrategically important is that Morocco, in its program to develop the Western Sahara, it should do that in a very integrative manner with West Africa and also with the Canary Islands and with Spain. The fact that there is now a new law within Morocco with regard to maritime areas and also to the possibility of also exploiting the maritime shelf, that extends the possibility of Moroccan development like beyond the territory towards the seas, and that could not happen unless there is like a very serious dialogue with Spain, meaning like the Canary Islands, with Mauritania, with Cape Verde, with Senegal, and also with Mali. That's a very important ecosystem in which there could be like a talk about like the future of the region, and all of the infrastructure projects and the development project that Khalid Somai talked about are within this kind of new look that thinks about the population as the main the most important thing. I mean, like, we are talking here, and of course now the trade is secured and all of that, but the forgotten people of all of this are those who are sequestrated in Tindouf. The people who have no voice are those who are detained in Tindouf against their rights. The people who are the forgotten of this conflict are the people who are warehoused, and also they are under the responsibility of Algeria, and Algeria does not respect that, does not assume that responsibility, but delegates it to the Polisario, which is illegal. I think that's the most important thing. If there is a cry that we need all to have I mean, like humanity cry is for those people who have been sequestrated, who have been warehoused, who have been like deprived of their rights for about 45 years, with no political rights, with no refugee rights if they are considered refugees, and they are used as pawns in a conflict, which is, I mean, a conflict that dates back to the Cold War, but it's a remnant actually of the Cold War. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hassan Haddad. Now I pass the mic to Dr. Samir Benis, and I would like to ask you, sir, given your proximity to the United Nations, this aggressive behavior by the Polisario, in your opinion, what would be its impact on the United Nations, and how will the United Nations deal with it in the future regarding the aggressive behaviors of the Polisario?
Thank you, Mr. Rami, for giving me the floor. First, let me make it clear that for the past 3 years, I no longer work for the UN. I work now in Washington. So just to be clear, because many people they still think that I still work and live in New York. Regarding to your question, I am under no illusion that there will be any breakthrough in the political process under the UN aegis in the coming future. And I am under no illusion that the UN will be able to solve the conflict at all. If we go back to the past 6 decades and just give a look to the conflicts that the UN has been managing, the UN has not succeeded in solving any untractable conflict that is sitting on its desks. If we look at the conflicts in Kashmir, in Cyprus, in Lebanon, even now the Libyan conflicts, because of the politics that are crippling the main organ of the UN, which is the Security Council, and because of the contradiction between the goals of each of the 5 permanent members, I don't think we will witness a solution to the conflicts through the UN unless the 5 permanent members agree on the same outcome, which is highly unlikely, because the China, which is rising, and Russia, which has heightened its tension and rivalry with the US over the past 10 years, are looking at the conflicts from the lenses of great power rivalry in the region. So even if you assume that the US wanted to impose a solution that is in favor of Morocco, other countries, especially Russia, would veto it. We have seen in the past 3 years that Russia, for example, has been systematically abstaining from the resolutions that were adopted. Why? Because Russia, this is conveying a message that Russia would not endorse any solution that goes in favor of Morocco. Why? Because Russia will not, no matter what Morocco does to strengthen its size, its commercial and political size, Russia, it will not match Algeria and Russia's commercial size. Algeria is the main exporter of Russian weapons in Africa, and if I am not mistaken, is the 3rd or 4th importer of Russian weapons. So if we put Morocco and Russia and Algeria in the balance, Russia's choice would be easy to make. So this is just to show you that we should be under no illusion that there will be a solution to the conflicts in the UN. What is good for Morocco, however, is that time works in favor of Morocco, and the more progress Morocco makes in the political process, is placed in its favor, and also not only within the UN, but also at the regional level. For example, let's take the African Union. The more countries recognize Morocco's sovereignty over the Sahara, the weaker and the shakier will the Algeria and Polisario's position will be. And we should just remember that Morocco will need 39 countries to support its position for the Polisario to be suspended from membership of the African Union. We remember that in 2016, July 2016, when Morocco first expressed its desire to rejoin the UN, the African Union, 28 African countries wrote a motion to African Union to freeze Polisario's membership. Now, after Morocco returned to the UN, Morocco is in strong ground to weaken Polisario and Algeria from with African Union, and I have no doubt that over time, Polisario will see its membership suspended, and this is also one of the reasons why Algeria and Polisario are angered by these developments and why they have resorted to these provocations in order to bring the political process back to square one, in order to alienate the international public opinion and mobilize it against Morocco and reshape the whole process. So I think that first, Morocco has a lot to gain from the status quo, because this plays in its favor, and we should not expect the UN to make any breakthrough that would result in a final solution to the conflict. So in my perspective, the conflicts will go on for many years to come. That being said, what Morocco should do now is try to weaken the Polisario and Algeria, not only within African Union and the UN, but also in terms of the public opinion, of the perception that the large sectors of the international public opinion have about the conflict. The problem that Morocco has faced over the years, over decades, is that the narrative has been in favor to the Polisario. This biased narrative that does not take into account the historical facts and the circumstances that surrounded the creation of the Polisario and how it's evolved from being a movement that sought at first to expel Spain from the territory, and then because of Algeria's influence, switched its goal from expelling Spain from the territory and keeping it under Morocco's sovereignty to calling for the establishment of an independent state. Even though Morocco has succeeded over the past years in securing unprecedented diplomatic victories, we are still lagging behind in terms of the image, in terms of the narrative. That's why Morocco should now embark in a large-scale campaign to try to win the minds and hearts of people and try to counterbalance the narrative that Polisario and Algeria have been spreading for over 4 decades, and they are still spreading. If we see, for example, what's happening on Twitter, for example, and Facebook, most people are tweeting in favor of the Polisario and Algeria, and especially in Spanish and English. And Moroccans are not there to counter that's propaganda. Morocco should really invest heavily in establishing strong and reliable media in Spanish and in English to counter that propaganda, because now the war is not a military war. Is a war of perception, a war of image, a war of narrative. That's why countries, for example, in Washington, spend millions of dollars to sway the public opinion and the perception of any conflicts where they are involved. I think that this is a very important aspect that Morocco should address in the near future.
Thank you very much, Dr. Samir Benis. Now I give the mic to Dr. Najib Somai, and I would like to ask you, sir, about the economic changes that could result from securing the crossing and what could take place within an area that is on the verge of a major development events. You can take the mic, sir.
Thank you very much, Rami. Look, the most important for Morocco is during the normal flow of it will make it will give to the Moroccan companies a lot of opportunities, and also allow to the Mauritanian and the Senegalese market. I think that also Morocco will benefit from this crossing point to develop other industries in Sahara, and also to develop what we call the third generation of capture that can use less water and ensure a high level of productivity. And we have this possibility in some regions in the Sahara. I think also that this will help the logistic dynamic that Morocco is making now. The road and the maritime and the port and also the airport will allow to every investors from the worldwide to participate and to invest in the region, and benefiting from the opportunities that allow. And one of the signs of that, when a country like Emirates opens a consulate in Laayoune or another country in Dakhla, this shows that this country wants to defend the future interests of the companies. It's not just it's not a symbolic or a symbolic diplomatic step. No, it's for example, for Emirates, many big companies can benefit from the opportunities of Laayoune, of Dakhla, and also in the future we can see many implementations of Emirati or Saudi or American or British companies in the logistical hub and the industrial hub of Dakhla, and benefiting from the opportunities. As I told you, it's the package of green energy, and also you know that many international funds want to invest the project that respect environment and respect many extra financial things. I think that His Majesty is now making this possible for the Sahara region. I want also to say that Morocco now is changing its way of development, not only in the south, also in the north. So I think that in the future we can have something like plus 3 points of GDP in, for example, in Laayoune region or Dakhla region, something like 1.5 in Casablanca and Tangier, and it's very important. It will give something like plus 6% for all the country. There is a lot of signs of optimism, and a lot of signs that say that Morocco, the important war of our country is now the war against poverty. and not only in Morocco, because we have a clear vision how to fight it, but also we have to focus on the situation of the Moroccans in Tindouf. There is a gap of 40 years of development between, for example, Bojdour and Tindouf. This 40 years make this situation make the life very difficult for them, and we have to think on a way to solve those people from this situation, because we don't know what is the situation with COVID. We don't know what is the real situation of the quality of life. We should, as a civil society and as experts, think about that, because the situation is really difficult in Tindouf, and we know that Algeria is able to supply Polisario with the military tools, and Algeria is not able to give aids or something like that to the people in Tindouf to have a good life and a good quality of life. We hope that we will find a way, because the terrorist band of Polisario think just about how to kill and how to be strong in the war, and don't think about the situation of humans. For that, I think that Morocco is a leader in Africa in terms of human rights. We should think about the situation of the people, of the humans in Tindouf. Another important point: the future is really positive, and His Majesty is making a lot of opportunities, and now we have just to shift the gear and go on a high speed on facilitating administrative things and facilitating many things in order to make the process of bringing investments very fast, and also make the process of changing the situation, or as the Professor Haddad said, to give a new look to our region, to our Moroccan region. And I think that Morocco now is able to do that, and we have just to be more pragmatic. And the best war that we can have is the war against poverty, and also a war for a better Morocco, without arms, but with minds, and many possibilities, like developing the banking framework in the region, and also developing also an agency that can look for opportunities in Africa and bring these opportunities to companies in the Moroccan Sahara, in order to benefit from all the possibilities, all commercial possibilities allowed in the continent, and produce everything that Africa needs.
Thank you very much, Dr. Najib Somai. Now, I would like to ask all of the three experts that we are hosting today a question about the upcoming scenarios. How do you see the future after Algeria coming out publicly and saying that it will not allow its interests to be affected, and that it is directly concerned with what's happening in the buffer zone, and also with Mauritania securing its borders? How do you see the future? In other words, is Morocco on the verge of a war? I would like to ask first Dr. Hassan Haddad. Sir, you can take the floor.
I don't think that there is the possibility of war in the foreseeable future, and the reason for that is that if there is a war, it should be Algeria would probably sponsor that war for the Polisario, because the Polisario by itself cannot wage a war, and therefore. And Algeria is not ready for that kind of war, having its own internal problems, which are political and economic. It has also problems on its southern border and also eastern border. And the other thing is that there is no possibility for a war to happen now, given the situation on the ground. The situation on the ground is that Morocco has secured the Sahara through the wall, which is 2,700 kilometer long, wall, and that wall has actually created a de facto a ceasefire, which has been consecrated in 1991. So what kind of war will that be? Will that be a guerrilla war? I don't think so. That happened in the late 70s, but because there was no wall to prevent the intrusion and the incursions of the Polisario. How would that happen? Would that happen from the Algerian soil towards Morocco? That's militarily also something that is difficult to imagine. Unless the two countries will get involved in a direct war, because the war that happened between 1975 and 1976 and 1991 was a war between Algeria and Morocco, but Polisario played the proxy for Algeria. There has been some interventions of the Algerian army in Amgala 1 and Amgala 2, but most of the time it was the Polisario who was waging war, but it was guerrilla war. So what kind of war will that be? When the Polisario says we're going to get to war, it does not make sense like from a military point of view. That's number one. But the second thing that we need to remember is that it's not in the interest of the region, of Morocco, and also of Algeria, but also of North Africa, that there would be a war between the parties. And although the Polisario has been trying to say that they are ready for war, they have been out of fighting experience for about 30 years now. So it's very difficult now to go back to what happened in the late 70s. Most of the elements that waged the wars in the late 70s, who had experience, now are old people. Most of the young generation would probably not get involved in, would not have the experience to do that. But it's also very difficult to see who will be the people who will be waging that war on the part of the Polisario. That said, I think everybody knows also, and it has been said in different kinds of international, by international experts, Morocco has been training its troops for any kind of eventual war in the Sahara, and therefore it has probably one of the most trained armies in Africa. It is one of the most equipped also in Africa. It has warfare readiness. It has very sophisticated weaponry. It has been leading different kinds of trainings with help of French and also with help of Americans. And all of that readiness by the Moroccan army will deter any kind of attempt from anyone with regard to waging a war. So I think war is probably not something that is probably improbable in the foreseeable future, unless something happens, unless something that we don't foresee happens, which probably brings the two sides to some sort of a major kind of battle. That probably what will happen. But given the situation as it is now, I think after the intervention of the Moroccan army, I don't think there has been there has been few things here and probably shots here and there, but they are mostly shots by the Polisario in order to save face and nothing more.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hassan Haddad. Dr. Samir Benis, you can have the floor. Sir, the mic is not working.
Thank you for giving me the floor. I echo what Dr. Haddad said. I think that a war, a direct war between Morocco and Algeria or between Morocco and Polisario is off the table. Why? Because as Dr. Haddad said, the situation between now and in 1980s is different. Why Polisario was, to some extent, in the first years of the war, successful in dealing blows from the Moroccan military. The reason why was because there was no war between Morocco and Polisario. So Polisario, they know the region, and they could easily take guerrilla actions against the Moroccan army. With the sand wall now, this possibility is off the table. In addition to that, a war between Morocco and Algeria would not be possible without Algeria being involved. And in that scenario, Algeria would just confirm its status as a main party to the conflict. So this is not in Algeria's favor. It's not even in Algeria's favor to engage in a war. In addition to that, Algeria's economy is on shaky grounds. The Algerian economy has lost within less than a decade, lost over $660 billion. Its reserves went from $200 billion to less than $48 billion. In addition to the context of the coronavirus and the vacuum at the top of the Algerian presidency because of the illness of the Algerian president. In addition to that, no regional, no global power would allow a war to happen in the region, especially the European Union and the United States. We have now an upcoming president, Joe Biden, who will have a lot of his plates domestically and also at the global level. And Biden will have no interest. The Biden administration would not allow a war to break out in the region, nor would the European Union, because a war in the region would trigger waves of immigration to the European Union, and this could have huge destabilizing effects for these countries, in addition to the economic and the humanitarian fallout of the war. For all these reasons, I don't think that Algeria that there would be a war between Morocco and Algeria, especially when we take into account that a war would guarantee 100% mutual destruction between Morocco and Algeria. If there is a war, we could witness destruction in big Moroccan and Algerian cities, and none of the two countries would be ready to go into that war, not to mention the fact that a war between Morocco and Algeria would not be supported by large sectors of the public opinion, because despite the political differences and conflicts we have faced with Algeria, there is, however, ties of fraternity and kinship between Moroccans and Algerians, and none of the two people would sit idle and watch a war break out between the two countries.
Thank you very much, Dr. Samir Benis. Dr. Najib Somai, sir, you can have the mic. Sir, the mic.
It's okay. I agree with Professor Haddad and Dr. Benis. A scenario of a war is not possible, and I think that if we want to talk about the future of the region, I can tell you that the future will be very positive of the Moroccan Sahara and Morocco too, and this dynamic that we have in the region means that in few years we can see big international companies implemented that will be implemented in the south of Morocco, and also we can see, for example, high-speed TGV link between Agadir and Laayoune or Agadir and Dakhla. I think that Morocco now is doing very well in terms of strategic vision about the future of the Moroccan Sahara. We can also say that this is the problem of our enemies, because now 1 hour before or 2 hours before, Algeria, for example, blocked the perform or all the internal performance of funding public project. And now until the end of the year, Algeria will not be able to invest, for example. And for that, we can say that the process of recovery of Algeria will be very negative. And in the other side, in Morocco, we have a clear vision of recovery after COVID. For that, Algeria doesn't have the possibility to enter in a war. The country is in a bad situation now. The market of oil and gas will not allow to Algeria to engage another war, because they have an internal war against poverty, and also against the internal revolution that the Algerian is doing from 2 years. Two years ago, they are fighting to have the regime they deserve. So for me, the Moroccan Sahara will be the key of the success of the Moroccan economy, the key of the success of the bilateral relations between Morocco and Africa from a side, and also between Africa and Europe, and also Africa and practically the whole world. So we are very positive, and I think that we have just to work and to fight. Because now Morocco is directly linked to Mauritania. Our army is doing a big job, big performance to ensure this flow and the fluidity of flow of people and goods. And I think now we can think about developing the quality of the road, and also developing some industries that will help our friends in Mauritania to have everything they need, and Morocco is able to supply all the Western Africa. This meeting was really important. It's much more diplomatic and strategic than economic, but I tried to bring some information. And I hope that we can have another occasion to talk just about economy, because in few weeks we can have many good news, and we should talk about.
Thank you very much, Dr. Najib Salmai. It was a really good contribution. So as a quick conclusion and recap of the last events, the situation today is that Morocco has gained more of an international support in its legal intervention to secure the Guerguerat crossing. The Polisario, with its aggressive behavior, has become outside of the political process, because it adopts more of a gang behavior and does not adhere to the requirements of the United Nations. Algeria also revealed, and as of the experts that we hosted today, revealed that it is a part in the conflict and showed its papers and how it was the main mind that planned the conflict that started a few weeks ago, and its main aim was to reach the Atlantic Ocean. Today, it was announced that it is the direct party in the conflict with Morocco. The legal intervention to secure the Guerguerat crossing brought about a major positive transformation in the Moroccan-Mauritanian relations. And here I would like to end by saying that the international community has witnessed an Algerian aggression against Morocco throughout the aggression carried out by the Polisario militia that wants chaos in the region. The problem is the chaos may drag terrorist groups into the buffer zone. Uh, Thank you all on behalf of Banasa, and I would like to thank all the experts that were today, Dr. Hassan Haddad, Dr. Samir Bernis, and Dr. Najib Salmai. It was an honor to host you today in Banasa newspaper, and I would like to thank you for coming to this debate and accepting our invitation. I would also like to thank the people who followed this debate today, and remind the people who are watching that Banasa newspaper will try to host more of English debates through next months and weeks. And I would like again to thank the experts today. You have honored me today, and I'm very happy to host you today in this live. Thank you very much and good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.